just trying to get on. Okay, no, she's not. Hopefully we'll hear. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. If we could, it's 6:34. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody. We'll start off with our minutes. We can have those approved. Were there any comments, concerns, or questions regarding the minutes that Lisa sent out? I think,
right? You were fine.
and there's Leslie. I'll be right back. I knew she was going to try to get off.
We have Victor
Yes, we do.
Welcome, Leslie. We just did the pledge.
Thanks, Margaret.
Hi.
Sorry, I was a little bit late. I was just in the middle of something.
No, you're fine. We were running late. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I second that.
Pam, and then all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Okay, then going to the NRI and the CSC update. The mapping, everyone got copies of the draft maps. And I believe the report for the NRI. Here's copies here if anyone would like a hard copy to read it and help. We just need to do a few parts of the report. The settlement history, it's in red.
So I wasn't sure what we were.
Well, you can read and make comments on any portions of it. The settlement history, which is in red, and then I think we have a agricultural something, but it's not on this one.
So
That we'll need to write. I have to have input on.
but there's no. It's not in here yet.
No, we've got to do it.
Oh, who's we?
Anyone? Well, Leslie, Margaret, and Richard. But we will take any help from anyone else.
Yes, I'll make a plug. We would love help, and particularly anyone who's interested in the history of the town of Washington and the village of Millbrook. Anything in there that you think we should expand on or that needs correction, we would be really grateful.
Anything?
Thanks.
Well, we're gonna take it on from some things, adapt some wording, and but there's also an agricultural section that we have to help with. There's some stuff that's going to be taken out of this because it's too long and intricate. But
And what's the deadline?
soon. Nothing's no rush right at the moment. I'll give you an update tomorrow on the deadline, but I don't think I have that in front of me right this moment.
Yeah, it's like 3 paragraphs.
What kind of history are you looking for?
It says settlement history, so I think
A few paragraphs on community history, including history of Native American settlement and forced removal, as well as status of present-day tribes.
Yeah, I read it on but I just didn't know what green they were looking for.
I know the green ones would be perfect for this.
Yeah, but there's a couple of books out there, that's why.
I know. So anyway, we'll have anyone and everyone that would like to have some input. The mapping, everyone look through the mapping.
Mapping was fantastic.
It looks pretty good, right? We're still trying to get a couple of things, and I found several parts of them that were very interesting with some of the different layers. I didn't bring all my copies, but if anyone had any questions or comments or additions to those, they could let me know. I'm still trying to find out about your stream, which I did note.
Yeah.
And if something like that was even going to be permissible for us to change.
Yeah.
So that's what you had, right?
Yeah,
You had
I
this
mean,
addition of a seasonal stream, but you think it's there all the time now, right?
It's now there all the time.
Yeah, so then that's what I'm trying to find out. And then you said this one, but we told you not to go through that one.
Yeah, that one.
But I do have it.
That one, I'll leave that one to there.
All right, and we're on the climate smart community. We're still working on the task force is still compiling our list of incentives. It's moving along quite well. Any comments, Leslie, on that? Nope, good. We're in agreement then.
Would you like a addendum to what the village is doing?
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry, I was trying to unmute. My mute wasn't coming up.
Okay, go ahead, and
yes,
then Mike's
no.
gonna talk.
I just would say that thank everybody who's involved on the CSC task force. We got great feedback from Pam Scott and Richard Phillips and Elizabeth Bellin and Colleen Howland and Adelaide Camillo. And actually Margaret and I met this morning and went through all of the comments and compiled a summary to give to Jillian from Cornell, who we were supposed to meet with at 10 o'clock tomorrow. And I don't know if Margaret, if you saw the email later this afternoon that she has to reschedule that. So, but we've made great progress. We've gone through half of all of the initiatives that the state recommends and have come up with a plan about whether or not they should be included at all in the Town of Washington's future plans, and if so, if they should be something we should look at in the next 1 to 3 years or the next 3 to 5 years. So things are moving along well there, I think.
Thanks, Leslie. Mike?
Basically, I attended the cohort meeting for the maps for NRI, and Genevieve was not there for those in February because she was away.
Yeah.
And she's back. But for the most part, we have 2 people who are working with us at this point, both working from Mike. We got Shannon, we've also got Peter, and both of those soils is Peter's thing, so he's very, very strong in being able to, say what maps would be appropriate and not. We're supposed to have a meeting tomorrow, as a matter of fact, but it had to be canceled at the last minute because one of the team members couldn't show, but we're trying to set up a meeting for next week and talk about what maps we want to include. There is a lot of discussion about the fact that we want to have some kind of a map available as part of an overlay that would show pretty much the recharge areas for the village water system. And for that, we have to be careful because the fact that the village would have to officially waive the right to have anything shown on a map that shows precisely exactly where a pumping station is. Because that becomes a matter of security.
Correct, yeah.
So we've got to deal with that factor. And other than that, we're still at the stage of figuring out exactly what maps we're going to end up with 5, according to Sean, for the village specifically, which ones are the most important. So I had discussions with him on saying, what did Rhinebeck do, who has a village in the town? What did Red Hook do, because they've got a village in the town? And what kind of things did they settle on that they felt were most important and the most effective? And I think when we have our meeting next week, we'll probably be able to come to some agreement on at least 3 or 4 of the 5 we're putting in. I know personally, I looked at all of the things that were available relating to village, and I suggested personally, something that shows flood zones, something that shows areas of some concern for that, but we have so few of them in the village area geographically that I'm not sure how they would show up.
Right, because it's a tiny space,
tiny
for the
space.
mapping.
So there's some things we're working
And I forget, are we doing some form of mapping for the town with the village as well? Were we trying to include a map in some way?
Well, what I'm hoping we can work out is the fact that, and I said this was a priority for me personally only, was that since the recharge area for the village is in town boundaries, that we find a way to be able to delineate that, because that's something that is constantly coming up at all of the planning board meetings in terms of wetland areas, in terms of water courses.
Right.
And, is this a recharge area for the village? Is it not? And et cetera, et cetera. So I think there has to be some clear delineation for the general public that's appropriate.
Right.
Without violating state law and security, considerations.
Did y'all review the surface water map
Yes.
that we had? And so it does have the 312, 13, whatever those lots are. That portion is shown in there, but it also has the lower portion shown that I've never seen before, which I thought was really interesting.
Yeah, well, we haven't gotten together as an entire group to look at it together and say, yes, that's really important.
Yeah.
That's part of what hopefully will be happening next
Okay,
week.
good.
And that's part of the information I provided to you from partial access, thanks to Howard, who was part of a very crucial.
And
meeting.
you know where that came from? This is a little aside. Remember Frank Genova?
Yes.
We did.
Uh-oh.
Frank Genova.
He was on,
Oh,
he
right.
was on the water committee. You were on there too.
I was chairing the water committee.
So Stan was chair first, we come to Stan. And he came in with 2 pages like you have here, pieces of paper. When they were trying to put a dump in, a town dump, over that section where our own dump is. And he had this little map that shows on the pieces of paper, it wasn't anything else, it showed the whole area where the water surface was from 1939 or something. And thanks to modern GIS software, you can take that hand-drawn map that you have for your area and superimpose it on a GIS parcel map with roads on it. So that's where that map came from originally. So the accuracy is only as good as it was superimposed. It never was an actual map surveyed, is what I'm getting at for that. It was a GIS generated map where you do a superimposition on there. In fact, I did, that was one I did until Sean took over. And so the problem now with all of that, you have a superimposed the aquifer layers as well on there. I saw a map someplace like that.
Yes.
You don't know which map is the correct map for the aquifer layers. There's at least 3 or 4 maps floating around. The only official map is the one the village has at the moment, which is like 1988 or something.
And even that's kind of sketchy.
So that's a job for you guys to find out what map you're going to use. But as you know, you've got 3 layers there, primary, secondary, and tertiary. And only the primary is basically the water source. The others sort of like drain into it. And so you are located over a primary aquifer where your village watershed is in, the plant is in the town.
But it's something that's crucial and very important.
Yes, it is.
Is the fact that we are a groundwater-based feeding system. So that despite all of the underground hydrology that goes with that does contribute to the basin of what we collect pretty much from the Millbrook and the Shorebrook, which is ground-based, and the containment galleries are less than 20 feet from below the surface. So a lot of the hidden aquifer, so to speak, the underground water streams and those kinds of things are far more germane to the town residents because that's what feeds their wells, but it has very little to
Well,
do
you
with
need a
that.
hydrogeologist, unless you have one over it, that like, what's his name that we had on the committee?
Russell
Russell Urban Mead.
Yeah.
You can have water from the ground, surface water going into that area. Think of it like a sponge. The ground could drain in, and the height of the water in the ground that drains goes up and down seasonally. So I can't tell you, but you would need an expert to go out and look at that and say, oh yeah, we get all our water from these streams. Or it may just be the opposite. You get your water from the aquifer that flows into the streams up and down. It's a complicated thing for a layman to figure this out.
Well, I'm gonna have to have a discussion with him soon because I know that there's one of the proposals that was removed years ago is possibly coming up again before the town board, and the person who is putting this proposal back to employ Russell Urban Mead to do a total hydrology survey of the property and the surrounding properties. And I've already seen part of what he's released as a study in terms of, well, it will have this effect, won't have this effect, that type of thing. So I've been having a nice conversation with him about, let's get down to the brass tacks of exactly what's going to happen, because that seems to be part of the misconception. You know, we have people making comments that the Pearl Ring would possibly having a water problem, and yet last summer we had a severe drought, and our containment galleries were within 5 feet of being unable to pump. That means unable to operate. You'll be talking about bringing in tankers of water to feed the village of water for the water supply. So it's not ancient history. It's recent. You can have it been like that.
Mhm.
This is an odd.
And we've had an awfully dry winter.
Yeah, we've not had what we needed.
Mhm.
Very little snow.
Mhm.
The
Exactly.
water
It
table
gets
is
in
pretty
there,
good in my
refreshing.
backyard, which is, like aquifer land, but it's definitely gonna be a problem again unless it starts raining, tomorrow, a lot. So, we need
This is
some
a
water.
problem for you guys when you keep expanding your system, because you're presently,
What about
for the last
animals,
20 years or
like
so, we've been in a
animals,
wet cycle in
maps
terms of
of
overall water in the
endangered
area.
species?
We're trying to
Before that, we
habitat,
were in a dry cycle for a
We're
while.
trying to get into that as well,
You know,
and
the
that's
rationing,
part
you probably
of,
remember.
Yeah, no, I do.
So
That's
this
part of
could
the
switch
report
over
that we're
again.
trying
as
to
the
jive
partners
a
moving
map with
around.
the
You
report
find
with
yourself on the
habitat.
other side of the water supply.
maybe, I didn't, did I miss a habitat? Because I know you emailed out
Yeah.
all those maps.
Yeah.
So was there a habitat map in there?
Probably not yet. I know we're trying to get
'Cause
that
that-
included.
That strikes me as being
It's-
critical.
It's extremely critical. We want that included.
Okay, so
What
should,
we've done so far, to my knowledge, is soils, geology, physical boundaries,
Right.
and water resources. So we
Okay.
haven't gotten anywhere near habitat.
But we are covering it. It's just we're
Yeah.
doing it in
Yeah,
stages.
Okay.
stage.
So that's why it's draft, everything's in
Okay.
draft right now, so.
good.
All right, thank you.
So we should continue to think of maybe maps that might be useful?
Anything that needs to be added to any of the maps or a map,
A map.
like the habitat.
Habitat.
Because, we're worried about the,
Turtles.
yeah, any of the endangered species or something else I was thinking of, but I don't know what it is, sorry.
Well,
Not
do you have
deer.
stuff For the Johnson
Not
estate,
deer, no.
that you could look at maps in your maps to see what's there ecologically. That's I don't know, 900 acres, whatever it is, Johnson estate that's being
It's
subdivided.
600, I think.
600, well, it's big.
It is.
So is there in this map stuff that you're working at, that has like an overlay of habitats on it, that you could look at that and see what's what on there?
That's what I'm
That's
asking.
what,
Yeah, that's what
that's one of the steps we're gonna be doing.
You're going to be doing.
Yes,
that.
because we're just doing baby steps. We have timelines to get X done.
Good.
And then we have things that we want to add to the maps, but we.
Okay.
So that would be a recommendation from your committee to get a Hudsonia study or whoever to do that type of mapping?
Well, that's what Sean's doing now, and
He's
Sean Carroll.
Yeah.
He is the first, I'll call it the first third, for lack of a better term. In the first third of this whole 12-month process, his maps are supposed to be pretty close to done on a rough draft basis and acceptable, and then move on to other things like how that intertwines with habitats, how that intertwines with transportation and other things. So he's going to be getting his map part done first.
Yeah, and we're a little behind on the mapping, so we're still okay with timeline.
Town of Rhinebeck calls it the amphibian crossings.
Yeah, they have a lot of those. They have a lot of amphibian crossings.
It's vernal pools, remember that study?
So we're trying to also, make sure our maps jive with our report. So
Okay.
everything has to correspond to
Okay.
to the same information.
Are you using Hudsonia maps? Because we were one of the first towns to get a Hudsonia study.
They are,
They have maps.
yeah, they're integrating our Hudsonia information from our report because they said it should have been used all these years to begin with.
It's
So
not used. They have them on the wall.
reference, should have been referenced, should have been used for reference. So, all right, anything else about the NRI maps or the report? Everyone, please do help with your report if you can. Pam, you, the wording that you came up with, and I apologize to everyone that
No,
the
and
draft
and-
was the wrong draft,
and-
but.
No,
my mind
it
is
wasn't.
chaotic.
Well, it's not Margaret's fault. I didn't circulate a draft that reflected everybody's comments because I thought we would discuss the comments here. The big change is that I'm going to delete the section on solar ordinance completely. Nan and David had some edits, some wording edits that I will include. The one question that came up is view shed or ridgeline protection. I think everyone wants to include a comment on that. The question is, do we specifically mention restrictions on solar too is something that would be a part of viewshed or ridgeline protection. Howard is suggesting that that's something that makes sense. Shannon, who's not here, has said that she thinks that that's better taken up as part of an overall holistic approach to looking at the solar ordinance, and that there's no need to sort of raise the issues specifically here. My view is the first sentence says that the CAC recommends that the Town of Washington consider some form of protection of our viewshed for aesthetic reasons and to help prevent soil erosion. I think that implies solar. I don't think you have to say solar to get at solar.
You could just put a little thing in there saying including but not limited to solar panels.
Well,
because
Well, I suggested as well, because solar is probably for most people the biggest thing on Ridgeline.
Solar is, I have to say,
people would know
solar is a big view
thing.
Yeah. And we actually personally had an issue with that.
You did.
Yeah.
Of your road.
Yeah.
But you also have.
And luckily the code was enforceable.
Yeah, yeah. So, but you also have in viewshed and ridgeline, if somebody has solar on their roof, that would be acceptable, I would assume.
So
as long as you were not violating the viewshed technically and or the ridgeline. So if your house is below the ridgeline and you have
solar
panels on your roof, it should be fine.
Yeah.
It's if you're doing a field of solar panels.
And also solar has come a lot further because our neighbor now has solar, she basically has solar, I think they're like solar shingles. You can't even tell her roof is solar now.
Right.
Yeah, I thought it was out there too. I think I mentioned that to you.
Yeah.
So you have the word reflective in the code there, if I recall correctly.
So what I'm doing is, what I did was I quoted from a Connecticut website. Mm-hmm. So, modifying the quote to add solar doesn't make a whole lot of sense because then it's not the quote. But what?
Put it in parentheses then. I think it's really important is what I'm trying to say, that solar is, I remember, this is just an example, going up, I think it was to Rhinebeck or someplace, maybe to the one of the training centers up there, and a bunch of us were in a car, and we came, a nice wooded section, we came around the bend in the road, and some person.
Yeah, they have their
all
panels right there.
Yeah. Right on the edge of the
exactly
road.
Where you're
they were
saying.
shielded from it by
They
bushes.
don't see it. They don't see it from their house,
Everybody who
but
drove
everyone
by,
has to see it.
and
It's
everybody
horrible.
remarked
Sleep
about it.
Sleep
So I happen to have a different point of view on this, which is that our viewshed is less important than the need to convert to renewable energy. I'm personally willing to put up with a lot of visual blight to enhance solar usage. Same thing with wind farms. I
knew you were going to say that.
I think our understanding of what looks good is going to have to change over time.
Well, but also solar is coming a lot because I think the cells are getting smaller. So just like our neighbor's roof is a solar roof now, you can't tell it's solar panels,
right?
And that's a huge thing. And the problem too with wind, I'll just say, is there does seem to be a problem with people with migraines and stuff with wind power.
Yeah, this area is not set for wind anyway.
Wind is it's a moot point around here.
There's companies that are putting solar as the rooftop over the parking lot, so it's enhancing, so you've got coverage for your cars underneath.
Yeah,
and it's solar.
Top,
Yeah.
The best I've seen.
But I think it's mainly protecting from solar farms.
Right, which is what
that we don't want.
So,
And when you have an aesthetic choice that's not going to impact an area, I think it behooves somebody to take the less obtrusive thing.
You know, there's a way to do that and still not make it obvious.
Yeah, I mean,
that's, you know,
there's,
well, I
so
think
Shannon
we're
isn't
trying
here.
to get
Shannon's
apples and ridge lines
recommendation.
and everything, that we
Yeah.
don't want this and everybody else.
So is Shannon outvoted? Because that's sort of, because Shannon's vote is to not mention solar at all here, but I'm getting a consensus that we do want to mention solar despite Shannon's email saying that she didn't want it.
I think this is, you know, what a debate is about, and eventually you decide something.
Yeah.
It's not one person.
I personally think solar should be in there, but if you would rather not, we don't have to.
I'm actually neutral on it. So I'm fine either way, but, so we've got
In
one,
parentheses,
okay, 1, 2.
Well, I'm saying also, if you put that in there and later on, if something comes out, that you could always change it, but you can't go backwards.
Back again. So it's very similar to LED type lighting.
Mhm.
If it's written there, but it doesn't seem to be
Okay,
observed.
so we,
So it's, if you don't have it there in some form, it can be ignored later.
got it, okay,
And
so
it can
what,
also be changed later if there's a
If
need
it's,
to do
yeah,
it.
exactly.
so I'm going to include Howard's language. It sounds like we have a vote to do that, and I'm going to modify it to make it clear that that's not a quote anymore.
Okay.
Okay.
When it comes
So,
to solar, instead of panels, is it possible to say, include an incentive to do the type of roof panels?
so we can add a sentence.
Incentive to be
Which are unobtrusive.
unobtrusive panels.
Yeah, like a
Because this
tax
is
break for a certain number of
honestly-
years or something like that?
Yeah, because I think it's honestly, I think like in our neighbor situation, I don't think she was doing it to be a jerk. I think the solar
People-
company
people
was
did.
really at fault, because what
Yeah.
they did is they looked at a certain part of the code and then they stopped. And so it was the solar company, and what we really need to do is police the solar
We're talking about the
companies.
one on Diam?
Yes,
Yeah.
at the time, yeah.
Those people knew exactly, I was at that.
100% they did, and
They
they
knew exactly
were
what they were doing to that
prevaricating.
woman.
Yeah.
They were, and I actually got into it with one of the solar people in the parking lot.
They knew what they were doing.
They haven't been.
Me?
back, I think.
Okay.
No, I don't believe it.
All right, so that point's decided. Then there was a point that I probably should have included in the draft and did not, and that had to do with the wetlands and watercourse section of the zoning code has a reference to a map. And way back, beginning of time, we talked about updating this section,
Yeah.
that map. Excuse me. So I was going to add that.
Those are the ones, by the way, that anybody is interested,
Okay.
those seriously on the town website.
So I'm going to say that this should be updated to current
Current
one.
mapping, yeah.
And then finally, Howard, after I sent out the draft, Howard sent out a discussion of the 25% limit and how that the ZBA is interpreting its permit authority to allow for expansions above 25%, which ordinarily we wouldn't comment on, but since it impacts wetlands, I think you're right, Howard. We do have the authority to do that. So I'm going to add a paragraph to talk about that.
For the legal minds, and I don't know the answer, but I think I have an opinion.
Yeah, that's like me having an opinion.
You know, I hesitate, I'm going to say it in the open meeting. Does the ZBA, who was given instructions specifically by the governing body as to what they are to do in print, that you, the ZBA, are to do this, and they write it out, for example, how many members you can have. They also wrote out that you cannot enlarge a non-conforming use by more than 25%. It's the same type of instructions. We tell you can have only 5 members. If you want to have a 6th member, you have to go back to the governing body to change that. So the governing body in the code said, these non-conforming uses that existed before 1971, I'm gonna make up the number, I think that's the right number, can be, and if they can be enlarged by 25%. Can you, the ZBA, say, well, I don't agree with that language, that you, the governing body, told me that those were my instructions, I'm gonna enlarge it by 28% or 30%, whatever I feel like, on a case-by-case basis. So I don't know, but I think somebody knows. If the ZBA can disregard the instructions that were used to create them on a local level, if they don't like them. I don't think personally they can do that, because that's an instruction. That's not a variance that they're instructed to do in the other part.
Yeah.
This is their instruction from the governing body that you can only do X.
Yeah, it seems like the variances should be between 0 and 25%.
Yeah, that's what it says.
And then there's a hard cap at 25%. And so that's what our recommendation will be in our comments, is that be clarified and confirmed.
Well, it has to be clarified because they're doing it.
Yeah, it would
Well,
just,
yes.
And given our earlier discussion about water issues, that's a super important one.
yeah, exactly. And
And actually, the cap should be even lower, but it's not going to be.
But it came, it's come up in the past.
Clark.
And it needs to be fixed.
yeah,
Because
okay.
because as Howard says, it's written, this is what it says, and
then
then we got other writing that says,
Oh, no.
what was written is not true, so what is, so it needs,
So I know there's a deadline with this. I can't, I'll do the
It's
updates tomorrow.
is it the 12th,
Uh,
April 12th?
So the board meeting got moved from the 13th to the 20th.
Oh, okay.
So
Good.
but I'll get this out probably late on Friday or on Saturday to all of
Okay.
you. So then you can approve it, and then we'll send it in on Monday. But I will
That would be
also-
great, Pam. If you got the planning board, we had our meeting, the planning board had their meeting last night. They're getting together their list. And if you guys could just get it to me by some point next week. The meeting was moved to the 20th. I'd like to just give the board some time to read over
Sure.
it. I don't know if we're going to be even able to discuss it in any great length at the meeting on the 20th, but I want the board to have a chance to review it so they can understand just, how many items are being recommended, just to have an understanding really of the scope of any kind of, suggested edits or tweaking that we may want to consider doing to the code.
Okay, yeah, that should not be a problem to get it to you next week.
Awesome.
Now,
That
before
sounds
we
great.
move on, the same thing that we're talking about. The fact that something is non-conforming doesn't mean that if you're in a residential district, it doesn't apply to you or something like that. There's a whole section,
So I think we covered
no, I
that.
think it's all covered in there.
Yeah,
I just want to be sure that we're going to make everybody aware of it, that if part of the code makes something non-conforming, it's non-conforming throughout the code. You can't say, well, what came up, the whole
Yeah.
details.
Yeah, no, I think we covered that.
Okay,
Yeah.
does everybody feel that's what I'm trying
Yeah.
to say?
I think it's covered on there now,
Yeah.
yes.
That this is not gonna happen again.
Let's hope not. All right,
Okay.
is that good, Pam? You
Yeah, that's good.
with
Yeah.
that? All right. All right, we will move forward and give Howard a chance to give us an update on planning board and the ZBAs. And I'm just gonna excuse myself for a minute. I'll be right back. But don't feel like you need to stop and continue on.
We've done the LED, I'm looking at it here in the code, is signed, the LED business of the.
Yeah, that's mentioned
No, I'm looking
in
at it.
this,
That-
yeah.
That's a really big deal because it determined that you could have other types of signs in the town, and the town doesn't want other types of signs, they want to keep it rural looking. And so also,
Mhm.
has everybody looked at that section and other eyes on it? You all satisfied with that? Section 330, signs.
Yeah, because
Sufficient?
the only comment we're making on the signs is that it's to be updated to reflect current lighting technology. That's it. It's important, but that's the only comment we're making on the signs.
The
section.
sign sizes and stuff like that. So we would allow an LED sign, but signs all in this town at one point were only lit by incandescent or light bulbs of some type. They did not use this new technology at all. And can you take an LED sign and turn it into something that looks exactly like a neon sign, which is what they did not want in this town? It was all about the aesthetics of the town at the time, as to what the sign would look like. So if you have an LED sign, you could mimic a bar sign with that, for example.
You could mimic a bar sign with incandescent too.
No, not quite as easily, but the point is on the lighting. When that was originally done, it was a lot of this was done, by the way, to make the town have a certain look and feel. It goes back.
Well, I think that goes back to Laura's thing about, you know it when you see it, and I think that because it's in the code, that has to be adjudicated by what, the ZBA or the planning board or the town board, and so if they can vote on that, they can opine on that, because I think it's already in the code, isn't it?
There's a lot of sign section in that code, sizes and stuff like that, how many signs you can have. But I don't know how to say this, otherwise I would have said it. How do you keep the town from starting to get these signs that don't look like the type of sign that most people want in the town? Most people want a kind of rural-looking, quiet-looking sign. They don't want it to look
But
like
they're pretty strict about it. They really, I think that what my understanding is it's pretty strictly enforced.
That's why I'm asking everybody's opinion. What you guys, you think it's all right what's in the code already, and just add LEDs in there?
Well, LEDs are going to become the law of the land anyway. We're not going to be able to get incandescents anymore.
They don't make them.
Yeah,
Stop them.
yeah.
So,
Incandescent.
Yeah, we're not going to be able to buy them anymore.
so is it nonsensical for us to say that LED signs should be prohibited? Because if LED is the only thing that we're going to be allowed to have in the future, then it doesn't make any sense for us to say.
Yeah, because, I mean, literally, the sign qualities that we've had have been, very nice little signs that people make up and really aren't even lit. Like, you're not even, it's down lighting if you're allowed down lighting.
So then the
So we
idea is
can
just
leave LED signs in there because,
as something we want to prohibit.
yeah,
Correct.
Yeah, okay, all right.
yeah.
And any
Neon type and LED, because you literally, if you go through the town, like you were just saying, like the signs are very quaint and,
Yeah.
acceptable to our community type of signs, and very few of them are lit. So,
yeah, that's what I'm trying to sort of my own way.
just,
How do you get signs that people want that look like this community? That doesn't look.
I think that says it.
Yeah, okay, then we'll leave it. So I guess we're done, and I will circulate another draft Friday or Saturday.
Actually, but made notes. Wetlands law. I think we're done on that one too. The note feasible as cannot and replacing cannot. I think it's pretty good, by the way, as it's written. Any activity in any wetlands buffer is detrimental, and applicants must be required to show there is no feasible alternative. So, the thing that sticks in the back of my mind and really annoys me is the guy with the rock. You know who I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he certainly had many feasible alternatives to expand that house. But he wanted, in the wetlands, because he wanted to have a view of the rock, didn't want to walk another 20 feet to see the rock every day from his house. So, no feasible, that would mean that, because what is a feasible alternative as opposed to a cannot alternative? If you make up a proposition that you have to have these specifications and it only fits there, then you cannot do it anywhere else. Because you've made those conditions. And I've seen that quite a few times with people. They come in, I have to have this, I have to have this, I have to have this, and yeah, it only fits in that spot by the time they're done. So they cannot do that anywhere else then. That's the issue I think we want to avoid. It's not what the person wants, it's what's best for the community in the long run, and how to help them adjust to what they've got on their property.
I think what you're saying essentially is protecting the wetlands is paramount.
Yeah, it's.
And I think that's super important going forward, is that we do have to protect wetlands and watershed as much as possible, because it's just going to become more and more of a problem.
And this other one that sticks in the back of my mind was this 345 Woodstock place where they wanted to fish. So they wanted to be as close as possible with the extension that they were going to add on to where the lake was. Now, they didn't have to be that close. It was another 25 feet or so to walk from where they wound up eventually. But it's the same sort of thing. They set up parameters that put this where they wanted it. And if you matched all the parameters that they were asking for, it would be where they wanted it. It wouldn't be feasible anywhere else. So how do you get around that? That's, I guess, the question. Is this language good enough to get around that issue of people making up exact specifications for what they want, and it fits in the wetlands? And there's no other feasible place to put this, but you can't match all the specifications.
So the feasible language was taken from other zoning codes for other towns that are more restrictive. And when you go through our wetlands laws compared to some other wetlands law, you see that we're more permissive in a number of respects.
Yes, we are.
So the no feasible comes from.
You think is okay?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the strongest that I saw when I went, quickly through some other towns. But the towns of Rye and Rybrook were held up as examples, and they used the no feasible language.
Yeah, but Rye, actually, they don't enforce their wetlands code very well. I know that for a fact.
Okay.
So I think that what it is we need to have. You said our wetlands code is not as tight as some. I think we need to tighten that up.
Yeah, that's what
I think that's great.
Yeah.
I think that's smart.
Mm-hmm.
Also reducing the penalties. I'm just concerned about what I brought up.
Thank you for
That
your-
people get around this all the time. And I would like it to be as tight as possible so people don't maneuver around
I agree
this.
with you, because we have to
And if we
protect our
have this
natural
already, we have it.
resources.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're all on the same page with that.
How often does this get reviewed, updated?
Like never. So
And then, yeah.
this is it. I mean,
The same as like every other year, or not?
No.
never. Like
This has not been touched since.
Decades.
decades. Yeah.
Yeah,
Can we
since
put
the
it on the
inception.
docket for 5 years?
Could ask.
Well, it depends. Be careful what you ask for, because there's an opportunity once you go into revisits, the things will get worse rather.
Yeah.
Instead
Yeah,
of-
True
you
that.
get the
Yeah,
reverse.
true
of it.
that.
Yeah. So I think that's why there's been
Yeah.
have to balance the appetite for revisiting things.
Yeah, so recommend tough, and then see what happens. Ask for 100, maybe they'll give you 75.
Are you all set on that now? All good? All right. Do you want to go to,
I think we're good enough.
well,
I have more, but.
Well,
nobody was
We know you do,
we
Howard.
know, and we appreciate that.
Yes, we
And we
do.
appreciate that you're stopping on that.
I think we're good enough.
So shall we do the planning board and ZBA
Yeah.
updates,
That should be relatively
quick and easy?
fast. The ZBA, let's do the ZBA quickly. The ZBA agenda. The interesting one is the Alexander DeVoe one. You've sent this out to everybody, right? People seeing the
I-
agendas?
Think, yeah, I
Yeah, you
did send
did.
all the agendas,
Yes.
right? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
Alexander, by the way, is the person on our town planning board.
And he recused himself from.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying, it's, you remember they came up with another project that didn't go through. So it's the same parcel.
Mhm, mhm.
What they want to do is make a bigger house for themselves, is what they're saying. And We just want to make sure they're not in the wetland. The rest is up to the planning board. So Steve Marino went out and he said, you're not in a wetland, in a buffer, because there is a wetland on the map and so on. And they're far enough away. So that's the end of that with the ZBA. It goes back to the planning board now. And there could be a couple of other things. I'm not going to go into that because it's not our job. The Yagard property is, again, technically not anything to do with us because it's just a swimming pool and setbacks and neighbors fighting over area variance is where to put things. And it's still up in the air. Their lawyer is Alan Rapelier, who's for the people opposed to it. And there's still some legal challenges going back and forth. So
That's on Stanford? That's on Stanford? Yeah.
No, nothing to do with us. Up to Lake Christian School. This man has been back there 3 or 4 times for no reason. He's back there with them for the variance of a roof height adjustment. He can't be there until the planning board decides what it's going to look like. And then he has to come back. I want a variance. So finally it came up, and you don't have to come back until this is done. And so that's the end of that. That's all. Done. And now the town board. Relatively short. Nagged lot line adjustment. This man has 2 pieces of property that total 35 acres, but they're separated. And all that, there was a wetland on some of that property a while back. It came up once before, and it's out of our buffer. The reason he's even there is he wants to put a second house on there now. And you have to have a certain amount of acreage to put 2 houses, and one of the properties that he has may not have that much. But by putting them together, he has 35 acres, which gives him enough to have 2 houses for the zoning area that he's in. I'm assuming he's in a 10-acre zone, so he would need 20 acres to put the second house on. You got 35, and anything less is even more so. All right, now we have the Upton Lake site plan again coming up, the school there. This time it does concern us. Steve Marino went out, he flagged the wetlands, and we had talked about this, as you might recall, several times already. He find this a couple of things. This is the map we've seen before that we looked at last time.
This is the parking lot.
This is the parking lot thing, and so this is, I don't know how you can really tell the difference that much. This is the Steve Marino one that we now have a yellow buffer officially flagged, and looks almost the same.
I'll help you.
Believe me, this is hard to fold up with one bad hand and no desk.
Sorry.
Well, it's folded correctly, because there is a way to fold
Is
these.
it the right direction? Yeah, it is.
It's for you folks here to look at. And this is now the wetlands buffer. This is the only part of the new proposal that's in the wetlands buffer. And
That's the parking.
this is
Yeah, it's
some of the,
parking.
it's basically the
Parking and
parking
road.
lot.
Parking road.
And I don't know what the solution is that they're going to accept, because this is one of those cannots that are most feasible. It's almost the same.
Yeah, we took this out, right? This
Yeah.
building is out.
That was the playground?
Yeah, the proposed new playground is not in the wetlands anymore.
No, so
Continue,
that's
sorry.
the adjustment. Let's use for catching that. So they're down to this now. And David is not here, but Walt and I are both retired school teachers, and we know about parking lots in schools. I think Mayapap is bigger than Carmel, but that's neither here nor there, but you guys made more money. And parking lots can be moved. There's no reason why they can't make a small parking lot somewhere else. This is my opinion. When we will get a wetlands application. And then you get into this feasible business in the wetlands application. Is it feasible? No other feasible solution, and I don't know, I haven't looked at it yet. Why not just take, this is me speaking as a person just going to evaluate like you guys will. Why can't you just take this out of the area here, put it somewhere else? Like you have a small secondary parking lot. Where I worked, and we had that. We had most kids park. We had two big parking lots downstairs, down below second level. One was mainly for students, but some of the teachers park down there too. In other words, they were able to move the parking lots. It's not fixed in stone. The parking lot has to look like that. You could take this section out, for example, and find another place to put it.
Does
That
it
makes
have to do
sense.
with accessibility to the building, or who's parking there? Are the students, do they need supervision? Is it a place that can cause trouble?
I don't know.
There may be things that come into their mind.
Wait a
when they're
minute,
doing the
it is a
design.
Christian school.
I'm telling
Cause
you.
trouble?
See, the problem is this guy, the architect designed this already, and he's reluctant to move it, so he comes up with arguments. Otherwise, it's a lot of work for him to remove.
We'll just say,
It's a drawing, it's not.
Yeah, it's not set in stone.
yeah,
No,
say it's the wetland buffer.
Yeah,
It's
it's,
straight to the middle. If you
I know, I was gonna say, it's not like it's an edge. It's kind of a
Redraw it.
Even if they had future
Shift.
designs of building where another
Shift.
proposed parking lot could go, then they could move the parking lot again.
shift, it could shift.
Yeah,
I
they could
don't see
also do
why-
a double decker.
Yeah, and then plus here, why
good
can it not like shift?
That might be expensive, but
It's only a
but they
relatively
could.
small section. Everything else is now out of the buffer. The fire department has signed off on it.
But what's here? I mean, like, why? I mean,
Yeah, why don't you just shift, you can just
Shift
take
this.
this and shift it over
Shift
to
it
here.
Shift all of this.
Well, I think this says leach field. What I'm saying,
Would not put it on there, but you can shift it slightly.
But
I mean,
you cut
this
this
space, if you
section-
cut that space out and
yeah.
put it right there, it's the same amount of space.
Well, I thought there was room in the back of the school too. Wasn't there?
But that's.
But what happens, yeah, but
That
isn't
looks
this,
like,
that's relatively steep slope and lines are very close.
Yeah.
No.
Well, can you also do like something?
Yeah, along this side,
You
along
can just
the
put it in
side.
different places. You
this
can
is
parcel it
yeah, well,
out.
because this is existing building, so there may not be any
Okay.
space here. And I mean, it would depend on what was here.
Well, what about if you, what, couldn't you do it here?
And you're talking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
I don't know if they're required or not. I don't know the law. If the law says you have to have so many parking spots for some central sized building.
Probs.
I feel like our code does.
I bet there is. But if there are 12 spots, I bet they could find another place to put those
That you-
12 spots.
Maybe you
Randomly,
can make a smaller building too. They're only 30, it's only a 30 student building now. Maybe they don't get all that.
But I would try and find 12 spots someplace else.
Or a slightly smaller building.
or a
This is like the guy
double-decker.
that says, I want to see the rock.
they could do
Howard!
Then they
Dang
can put
it.
solar panels on top.
they could do a 2-story parking area.
And a giant rock to boot.
do they have a rock? Do they have a rock?
No, we're gonna
Maybe
give them
there's one
one.
here.
We're gonna require a rock.
Everyone must have a rock from now on in their landscaping.
The other somewhat serious matter is the parking lot. They're gonna want to pave a parking lot somewhere. And that's probably, there may be an aquifer here, it's not shown. And then there's Clinton people on the other
And
side.
is this the Clinton line right here?
I
Yeah,
think
so
it
this
is.
is Clinton, yeah. So I know that were they at the meeting by
No,
any
they
chance?
weren't a nice
Okay.
meeting.
They've
Not
been,
the-
they've been observing anyway.
Because you can't see it here, but on the other side here, you go to parcel access or somewhere, a whole bunch of little houses there, little properties. Those people have wells. I'm positive they would have wells. There's no water system out there for them.
Yeah.
And so if you contaminate an aquifer that's on this side of the line, we were just talking aquifers, it slopes down that way. So the water will drain down to Clinton.
And is this the proposed road or is this an existing road? I
I
can't
think it's
remember,
an
'cause-
existing road, I'm not sure.
because does it exit out of Clinton, right?
I'm not sure where that, where's our side? Because the fire
This is ours.
department was talking about a road. And didn't get into that.
I know,
that
so
much.
because this is, I don't remember which way the road comes out. This must be the existing road here. because it comes out Clinton
So are we
side.
on the Clinton side?
This is Clinton side.
Okay.
I think the entrance and exit comes out on Clinton side already. I think this is the the fireman's road that they're proposing, because it does go in the wetlands, and they wanted to.
The fire people were okay with what it was. They didn't think they needed an extra emergency road to go around. They
Okay, yeah.
begged
that's
off
good.
of that.
Okay,
Well,
good.
and that they
Well,
they
good, because
declined.
it was going into the wetlands.
They felt that was not necessary. So fire
Okay, good.
department is
Okay.
out of the picture.
Okay.
So we're left with the parking lot being paved. That's something to consider.
Mm.
Now, how are they going to pave it? And you might remember the Ruby thing here, which I know you remember. Paving that, what they did to that parking lot was a big issue. They wanted to asphalt it over originally, make it look like Route 9.
Mm.
So there's some compromise work that they could do. If they, how much, I don't know the answer. Again, this is something, an engineer or somebody would have to look into what is an acceptable surface for that parking lot, and do they need it? How much do they need? So that's another issue. And there's one other thing that came up, just run out of my head here. Parking lot, and as soon as I leave the room, I'll think of that one too.
You didn't write notes?
Yeah, but I don't have a note on that one. Lighting. I do have a lot in my head. And I'm probably in my notebook, but I didn't write it on that. But we talked about lighting codes. When they first came to the meeting, Dutchess Land Conservancy came to the same meeting. Dutchess Land Conservancy was very conciliatory about dark sky lighting and filtering.
Great.
And, everything. And timers, you name it, they said, yeah, we'll do that because, that's our business. We're in the environment.
Yeah.
And some of our code also says that, but the code doesn't have is a dark sky lighting thing yet. The code would need that.
And I was glad you brought that up, because I think we should, I think it'd be great if we had a dark sky code.
Yeah, the sky is,
Yeah.
getting, actually it's getting bad here.
Yeah, for shiz.
Yes.
So they agreed, this guy here, Bovey, agreed to everything that Dutchess did and more. Because we talked about the buildings, what are you gonna do with these buildings? These buildings get lit at night, you exit signs and so on. And sometimes people are in the buildings at night, the school building, stuff goes on. So he said they would dark sky everything, they would be compliant, they would use relatively low Kelvin, 3,000 Kelvin, which I think is what you guys got up there in Mavisville at that place.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be something like that. And they would put timers on it as well. So that was really good.
Great.
They would do all that stuff, and not all of that. Some of that is in the code, by the way. You read the lighting code, there is stuff about timers and they were not in use and so on.
Mm-hmm.
But he was going as far as he felt he could with that, more than I thought he would actually do that without being forced by this. Well, he did it first before they told him that he had to do that.
Fantastic.
So that's where we are. We'll probably get the wetlands application next time around when he comes back to the board.
Thanks, Howard.
That's
Thank you,
my guess.
Howard.
Is that everything?
No, it is everything.
All right, thank you, Howard. Where are we in the big picture?
Open comments and questions.
Oh, yes, we're to open comments before we go into anyone else's. Let me see. So I wanted to go over the letter that we wrote to James, and appreciative of him to respond to us and give us the response letter, which was, mimicking what we said. So he was very appreciative, and that was very nice that we got the answer, and we'll keep an eye on that.
Yeah, I'm very impressed with James. He seems very
Oh, no,
knowledgeable.
he's
Friendly?
He's lovely, yeah.
Yeah, I think he's good.
awesome. He's totally awesome.
Yeah, I agree.
So the March Roundup was successful, and thank you, Lisa and Howard, for attending, and Lisa for representing us in reporting.
Yep, to my 5 minutes.
Good girl.
I'd like to compliment her for a person who's never been there, never done this before.
Thank
She
you,
did
Howard.
very
I already
well,
sat next to
extremely
me.
well.
Good, thank you.
One thing they passed out, I'll just go quickly, then if I want to go, is this is what they're passing out to everybody on water, reusing water, rain barrels.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Would just be something, how to build a rain barrel, or the little brochures at the back. That was neat. And if they want a quick recap, I'll do it. I can do it
Yeah,
next time.
can you give us a recap?
It's not in depth. She said she was gonna send you what every town is doing, which is some
Yeah.
highlights. They're gonna be doing a new parcel access. Their planning board's working on that, so that's supposed to be happening pretty soon. CAPI is the county government gas emission inventory that they're working on. I'm not familiar with that one. They have an NRI webinar series. You can go and find it online there. A lot of towns are doing the road salt versus brine, the pickle juice, and a lot of them are going with the brine. They're doing a cost analysis on that. But they're really liking the brine to help keep the ice off the ground.
And does that reduce the amount of salt? Good.
Yeah, it's a big push. There's a lot of towns doing it, as well as Cornell is going into it. Town of Flaminia is working on hospitality because they were up in arms, of course, you know, about Silver Ridge.
Yes.
They said they got their cap for the NRI. They achieved their NRI status, so they got a cap for it.
I think they got money, what they.
Yeah.
That's what-
Town of Beekman, lovely Scottish accent, I even wrote that down. They're trying to go over get rid of handheld gas leaf blowers. They don't want them. They're working with schools on a pollinator pathway and NOMO, and they're they want to set up a map for the charging stations around the town of Beekman.
Oh, nice.
Or Beacon. Town of Beekman, sign off approval on all projects. Oh, they got the CAD, Town of Beekman, so they can sign off. They get the actual final approval on any project that's happening through zoning or planning. So because they're CAB and not a CAC, I was very proud of themselves for that. You asked a lot of questions on that one too.
I'm shocked.
Yeah, they're big on the salamander. They also want to do the NOMO May, and they're doing a school drive. Town of Clinton was a no-show. Town of Dover was not attended, although there were people from Town of Dover in the audience. I don't know what that's all about. Hyde Park, they just got their Brown certification. They completed their NRI. That's about it. Very quick. The Grange was a no-show. Yeah, there's some people not there.
There's a lot less people there then.
A lot less food too.
Oh, no.
Because Margaret wasn't there with her cookies.
No,
Town of Pleasant Valley, they're doing a summer camp composting for children.
Nice.
That's going to be held. They're doing a pollinator, they're having a community garden. So they have everybody working on my garden.
We need a community garden.
Huh?
Sorry, I said we need a community garden. I didn't even think about that.
They've got they're working on their CAPI. Town of Poughkeepsie, they're doing Earth Day cleanup. They got their bronze. They're working on their silver. They got a CAFE. What is a CAFE? C-A-F-E. Okay. I just wrote it down.
Place where you can go get coffee.
I know.
It's a cafe.
Cafe.
It's a cafe.
They're doing a pathway to pollinator for the town as well. Red Hook is doing a dollhouse at their community day, and it showcases the energy that you can save in your house. So it's a big dollhouse that they're putting up there. Salamander, they've got a big thing on protecting the salamanders in Red Hook. They're getting a grant to help mow lawns.
Nice.
They're on the opposite end.
To help mow lawns?
Yes, because they don't like people having a lot of grass high and ruining the aesthetic of the town. So they literally are getting a grant to help mow the lawn.
Wow.
After May.
Yeah, probably.
How interesting.
Because the May thing is creating the problem. The No-Mow May is creating the problem for the rest of the year. It should be No-Mow April. Okay?
Okay.
Because it's like almost needing to mow again.
Really?
Yeah, my backyard.
No, oh, interesting.
They have a giant trash disposal collection going on for air handlers and humidifiers, those two things specifically. And
Because you
Rhinebeck,
really can't recycle them otherwise, so that's a good service.
yeah, oh, if you got one, just sneak it over there.
I might.
Town of Rhinebeck is the one from the CAC, they're now a CAB. Road protection, they're big on the brining for the roads, they're doing the amphibian crossings. There'll be signs going up about where they cross over. That's in
For
addition
all
to
of
the
us that
turtle.
don't know where they're at, because we kind of all know. It's scary to drive over there, I'm telling you.
Town of Stamford, they're working on their social media and they're upgrading, trying to reach out to their community. That was their big thing. Some people didn't talk very long. Some people talked a long time. I helped it right to the notes. Town of Unionville, they're doing the CAC liaison with their town boards. They got their bronze certification. They're also doing a pollinator garden and a solar field, and they're doing a stargazing event.
Yeah,
Nice. So those are the
I
things
hope we
going
find a
on
nice
in
spot
town.
here to do that.
We gotta keep our dark skies.
That's not an easy time. You can't stargaze at my house. So that aside, thank you, Lisa. Very nice.
Thank you, Lisa.
All right, and the DLC. I don't know, is it anyone else on the DLC's list of mailing, but I was pleasantly surprised to see the conserved lands in the area, so I'll send everybody a map on that as well, because Ed hasn't gotten it, but it's nice to see that it's getting greener for the conserved areas. It'd be nice to see more. So,
Are you saying that there's a mailing list of DLC?
yeah, are you not on it?
I'm supposed to be on it.
Well, this was on mine, but I'll send that to everybody so you can see the green, because there's some added bits in there.
Okay,
Needless to say, I'm not sure is. I was looking to see if the Bonnecue property's on there yet, but I think it is. I think that's all on there. So
Would you be so kind as to ship it to me too?
I'll send it to everybody.
We can use it on
There
the.
was
Yeah,
a
I'll do it.
house on Hibernia Road that was a Bonnecue house that's been sold since, but the people that have bought it are taking down the hillside, which goes right into the stream. If you know where Hibernia Road is, where the bridge was there and there used to be a dam, but the dam collapsed and now it's just a trickle. But the stream still goes through there. So there's a tractor, yeah, there you go.
This is
right.
This is sounding
This
really
is-
bad right now.
But the whole hillside is like shale and they're taking it all down. I don't think they're trying to expand the
This
house
the
that was
40 acre
there.
one where they.
No, it's
No,
the
this
30
has gotta be a
acre.
small
The-
part.
It's the little 30 acre,
With the
right?
three
Is it Town of
barns on it?
Washington?
Town of Washington.
It has three, it's,
Three buildings, there's one with little.
It's got the
barns
three
and
houses.
It's right,
There's
no,
three
this is
houses.
right on the curve on
That's the
Hibernia
one.
Road past the bridge.
oh, Hibernia Road.
Hibernia Road. It's a very tiny property, then it goes right down to the creek, but everything else is going right down to the creek. Needs a drive-by.
Wow. Well,
Well, that's your territory.
yes. Anyone driving by.
No,
I mean, I can
You
do
can see it driving by.
All
You
those,
can't-
the area better than I do.
Hibernia?
Hibernia?
You go Route 82 to
up in
Hibernia,
that
so
section.
turn left,
How
you'll,
about the other end of
I-
town?
No, that's over the other way.
Yeah, no, I've got to go to Rhinebeck maybe on Tuesday, so I can take a look at it then,
okay, just
if I go to Rhinebeck.
Just
Yeah.
sounds.
get a second visual on
Yeah.
that one. That's all I
So,
got.
thank you again. And Elizabeth,
Speaking of No Mo May,
yes, I'm just going to you, so it's so fun. So you're back on No Mo May again.
you think?
And everybody
And-
else seems to be as well.
I mean, it's great, and it's going to be a part of our, we're trying to do the pollinator, become a part of the pollinators pathway with the CSC. It's one of the initiatives, and that goes in line with it. Also, Elizabeth, did they contact you, the 10 Mile River
I
collaboration?
just got an email from them today,
Okay,
Yes.
so I asked.
and I haven't had a chance to look at it.
Yeah,
'cause
it's okay.
I was driving
there's
back
no
from
rush.
my on-site.
There's
board.
no rush. They meet quarterly.
Mhm.
And I have so much on my plate. I asked Elizabeth to take
Yeah.
on this initiative. It doesn't affect us a lot, but it affects everybody around us, the things that are discussed, and it's a lot of good information that
Right.
we can get out of it. And it's,
So
be
it's-
beneficial, so.
The 10 Mile River Collaborative, a group of representatives from municipalities and organizations who work within the 10 Mile River watershed. We meet quarterly to collaborate on regional water and land management strategies. Up until July of 21, the main focus of the collaborative was to write the 10 Mile River Management Plan. Our next meeting will be in the last week of April. And so anyhow.
I mean, it's just, the last one I sat in on, you just learn so much more about what's going on around you that you might not have been aware of, like the Cricket Valley,
Right.
all of that. And then all of the new developments that they're trying to fight as
Right.
well. So it was nice to be able to get another view in on
Great.
what we have to be aware of here.
Fair
So,
enough.
thank you.
Sure.
And thank you for No Mo May,
Sure.
because it's right upon us.
I will. I'll forward. Do you want me to forward you?
Do us a whole new,
I'll just forward you the same one as last year.
because I won't use it. Do us a new one.
You won't? Really?
You'll know it was last year's.
So, does it matter?
Who's gonna know?
Who's gonna know?
Well, no, but then there's continuity. Then it creates. Then people will like, oh, yay, No Mo May.
You
All right.
think you could put that in the town?
Except in
I'm
Red
serious though. You think-
My kid was like, Mom, this is Mom. Come on. We've got to be late. He's like, Mom, come on. It's looking really bad. It's time to mow the lawn. I was like, on June 1st, we will.
We have like a maze in our backyard. Like, so we have patches
Yeah.
and leave the high
Yeah.
flowery bits, and
Yeah.
it's somewhere to run around. It's cute. All right, any other open comments, questions, or concerns from the rest of you? Anyone
motion to-
online?
No, I'm all set. Thanks, everybody.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. A motion to close the meeting.
Second?
You
All in
can't
favor?
Who second?
No, I didn't say me second it.
I
I want a second.
I'll
Yeah.
second.
Pam seconds.
I did it.
Walt seconds.
Well, Walk Selton, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you and
Thank
good
you.
night.
Thank you.
Good night and good evening.
So